Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
And I'm Sean Liang.
And God, you know what? We go from Bigfoot to the Loch Ness Monster.
Good old Nessie.
Albeit like a million times better.
Yeah, seriously, what it should have been.
Like, oh my God, like we're talking like fucking apples and oranges here.
Yeah, it's insane, the difference.
So today we're going to be talking about Incident at Loch Ness, film that was written and directed by Zak Penn. It stars Werner Herzog and Zak Penn. We have an interview with Zak Penn that we're going to play here in a little bit. But before we get to that, Sean, you've been watching anything this week?
Oh, man, I have not. I haven't. I just watched...
Still on that Walking Dead.
I was just gonna say that. I just watched Walking Dead. No, I don't think I've seen any new movies. What about you?
No. I finished Scream, the TV series.
Oh, you finished?
So that was I was like, it's like 10 episodes.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like a huge time commitment. Yeah, I'm curious to see where it goes next season. Let's put it that way.
There will be one. That's exciting.
Yeah, there will be one, which is good. You know, I normally try not to watch shows that only have one season.
Yeah.
Because then you just kind of get like depressed at the end of it.
Yeah.
But to be fair, one of my favorite shows only got like 3 episodes. So
Oh, really?
yeah. Anthony Bourdain of like No Reservations, they did a sitcom based off of his book Kitchen Confidential called Kitchen Confidential. And the show had Bradley Cooper playing the Anthony Bourdain character.
No way. I've never heard of the show.
Yeah, you're not in the minority.
Yeah, I assumed.
You're in like the very large group of people that haven't. It's I think they aired like 2 episodes of it, and then they released the entirety of the episodes that they shot, which was like 13.
Oh, okay.
It was on Fox, so of course it got canceled immediately. And they put it in a time slot that was going right up against like the opening day of baseball.
Oh, okay.
So it was like doomed to fail.
That sucks.
But it had like Bradley Cooper, John Cho. It has a bunch of people in it. Frank Langella's in it. There's like a bunch of people in it. It was actually a really funny show. Yeah. I hate when that happens to shows that just like get like axed before their time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that happens a lot.
And I'm not talking about Firefly.
Everyone else would say so.
I know everyone else would say Firefly. I mean, okay, but like that's a gimme.
Okay. That's how it is.
Yeah, that's a gimme. I mean, like everybody loves Firefly.
Yeah, I've never seen Firefly. I need to finally watch it.
I mean, it's good.
I just hear about it so much.
I think people love it a little too much.
Yeah, there's a diehard fan base for it. It's interesting.
Yeah, and Joss Whedon is, I have my opinions on Joss Whedon. his like MCU work aside.
Yeah,
so, yeah, when shows only run for one season, it's like a big bummer.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the one I'm thinking of is like Freaks and Geeks. I loved that show, and then I'm still sad that there isn't more.
Freaks and Geeks. I mean, Freaks and Geeks is a little bit ahead of its time too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
I did watch Judd Apatow's new show Love on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I really like it. It feels like a Judd Apatow show, which I love. I like his TV a lot, so I recommend it for sure. I finished the whole series or the whole season, and they actually film at this apartment complex that I lived in for a summer when I was interning out here. So it feels so weird to watch.
Yeah, I'm not big on Judd Apatow.
Yeah, I feel like you wouldn't be.
Well, and I watched, what was the last movie he did? Trainwreck?
Yeah, that wasn't. Yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't that good of a movie.
Yeah, I agree. I hate to agree, but I totally do.
Yeah.
I didn't love it. Because I wanted to love that movie.
Yeah, Judd Apatow's all right. He's not my favorite for sure. I don't know who my favorite comedy writer would be. I like more of like comedy movies, not specific people.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Yeah. Why don't we talk about Incident at Loch Ness? Because I think we're going to have a lot to say.
Sounds good, man. I agree.
Yeah. So the film came out in 2004. It was written and directed by Zak Penn. It stars Werner Herzog, Kitana Baker, Gabriel Berenstain, Zak Penn, Russell Williams II. Like all the people who are in this movie are real people.
Yeah, they play themselves essentially.
Yeah, they play themselves. Zak Penn is playing a little bit of a
caricature.
Yeah, he's playing. When I spoke with him, he said that he was playing a person that he had to deal with in the movie industry, which really makes sense.
Absolutely. I think we've all met someone like him in the industry.
Right. The IMDb synopsis for the film is a documentary exploring the myth of the Loch Ness Monster.
As myth, and as an amalgam of myth.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror. We'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
I've always been interested in the difference between fact and truth, and I would call it the ecstatic truth. Millions of people are believing that in these deep waters, some sort of a dinosaur is dwelling. Professor Connor, do you really believe in the monster?
Absolutely. I mean, there's been 10,000 sightings of this thing over 1,500 years.
Last summer, a distinguished team of filmmakers and scientists set out on an extraordinary expedition.
Show me one piece of evidence that proves this thing does not exist. They're saying, show us the evidence. I'm saying, show us the non-evidence.
Their mission to uncover the legendary secrets of Loch Ness.
A lot of strange things happened on the boat, and I just knew that there was something seriously wrong.
Look there! The water! Look, over there! Yeah, something on the water. What is that? What is it? Shoot it! Shoot it! Keep throwing it!
Incident at Loch Ness.
It's absolute pandemonium on this loch, so it's been very difficult to get any real information out of them as to the causes of this tragedy.
Wow, that isn't even scratching the fucking surface.
It doesn't, because it actually is partially what it's about. You know what I mean? Like. Right.
So, but before I ask you, I'm going to try to kind of set the stage for this movie.
Okay, cool.
So the movie, because the IMDb synopsis is a terrible job of it.
Absolutely.
The movie is called Incident at Loch Ness. It's a mockumentary. It's more of a documentary that parodies documentaries.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Zak Penn told me yesterday. That's what he was going for. The film follows Werner Herzog while he is being shot for a documentary called Herzog in Wonderland, while he is preparing for a separate documentary called Enigma of Loch Ness, in which he explores the Loch Ness myth. All the while, Incident at Loch Ness is kind of the overarching umbrella film.
Yeah.
So it's a documentary inside of a documentary inside of a mockumentary.
Yes,
it's like a fucking Russian, it's like a nesting egg movie.
It is, but it doesn't get confusing at all.
It doesn't get confusing, but you do wonder where the lie starts and where the truth begins.
Well, sure, yeah, and I think that's one of the things that it does well is it creates sort of a disorienting world.
Yeah. So with that setup in mind, Sean, what did you think of the film?
I actually really, really liked this movie. It's the complexity of the way it's layered, like you just explained, is really it's not difficult, but it makes it so much more colorful. For the first, I would say the first act of the movie, you really don't know what's real and what's not real. It leaves you wondering. Movies like this are reasons like my mother, like older people are going to believe that everything in this movie because it's woven in so subtly and so the flow and the pacing of it is so great as a documentary and as a mockumentary too. I love that they bring in all of these real people. Werner Herzog himself has such a brand that people know, and him alone, his involvement in this movie gives it so much fun credibility in a weird way that makes everything that happens a little bit more, even though it gets outrageous. It just adds that element of reality to it. I don't know. I love it. I thought it was a great movie.
This movie is awesome. I feel like this movie, it's not like I feel like it's overlooked, underrated. I mean, all those words kind of say the same thing.
Sure.
But this movie it's not for everybody.
Yeah. For sure.
Some people aren't going to get it. Like you said, some people are going to think that this is legit.
Yeah.
Some people aren't going to understand the nuance of a movie inside of a movie inside of a movie.
Yeah.
You didn't watch this on DVD, correct?
Correct.
Okay. On the DVD, I own the DVD. I don't even remember when I bought it. I had to have bought it when I was in high school.
Oh, wow.
On the DVD, they have a commentary track where Zak Penn and Werner Herzog are still in character from the movie.
Oh, that must have been really confusing and awesome.
That's the thing about this movie, and that was something I talked with, and you'll hear in the interview with Zak Penn, is that the reason I think this movie is so successful and such just a great genre classic is that it goes there with this the kind of the who's fooling who con man.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, even on the DVD, it doesn't show its hand. On the DVD, the commentary is still them in character. There are some special features that are them still in character. And then the only way to access the real stuff is by a secret Easter egg menu.
Oh, that's awesome.
So they go for it and then they keep going for it and they never really tell you otherwise.
That's genius to me. To me, that's the only way that you can really do a really truly successful mockumentary. And
it's to just go full in.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that we had difficulty with to survive is because we play with any movie that sort of plays with that. This borderlines even some of the found footage movies we've seen, but if you play with that reality, it's very difficult to make that experience go beyond the film itself. And that's what a really successful found footage movie or mockumentary movie will do. And that's what Blair Witch did. I mean, that's what a lot of movies did. Even Paranormal Activity had people guessing. But those are the movies that create this world so believable that I remember that you believe that you'll believe something crazy, which it almost goes into what Werner talks about in this fake documentary called Enigma of Loch Ness. He's talking about the absolute obsession with creating monsters, and I thought that in some weird meta way it all connects. I thought that was so cool.
And having Werner Herzog in this movie, I think was the absolute stroke of genius.
Absolutely. Because
Werner Herzog isn't known for this kind of film.
Right.
But he's known for the kind of film that they make in this movie.
Exactly.
And so putting the name with the project, along with Zak Penn, who obviously has this, writing career that, some of the some movies that, I say the name and people are like, oh, amazing, regardless of his full involvement in it.
Right.
Zak Penn and Werner Herzog, Zak Penn writing this and having Werner Herzog being kind of the centerpiece of this, I think was the stroke of genius, because having a director like Werner Herzog, who's known for making these, introspective, philosophical documentaries and really kind of outlandish films like Aguirre or Fitzcarraldo, when you watch this film, you buy into it because you know who Werner Herzog is and what he's done.
Right, and not just Werner, but also his DP and his sound guy, who are real people, who are real DPs and sound guys who are, Russell Williams, for example, the sound guy on the project, has won all of these awards. These are people, legit people, and that, to me, that makes the performances so almost completely real. It's just it's cool because it wasn't about their performance. I that's something I thought about watching them on the boat, is that you're seeing them interact with each other, and it doesn't feel forced. It's just, it feels so natural. And then when you do see acting, it's from the actors.
Yeah, and when you look at this film and you have to really kind of dig down and understand what Zak Penn was going for with this film, because it's kind of unlike anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's really hard to do a movie like this,
because you don't really understand who is conning who, or who is trying to put one over on who, until the end, maybe not at all.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I have my own thoughts about who's putting one over on who in this movie.
Yeah. And
kind of where the lie begins and the truth, ends, or vice versa. But it's such a tightly written film and tightly woven together that, I don't think someone who was as gifted and skilled at writing as Zak Penn would have been as successful.
Yeah, it's impressive work. And it's someone who really understands the genre and understands documentary filmmaking, and how, it just shows a really strong awareness of the way these things work, and the sheer brilliance of, like you said, working with Werner on something like this and bringing these people on and just knowing how to make this convincing. It's impressive, Like I remember I had an aunt once that told me to watch. I'm dying. She told me to watch a movie called Troll Hunter, which is like this Swedish found footage horror movie. And she believed, I'm telling you, this woman now believes that trolls exist. And this is the kind of movie that is done so well. The writing is so creative and convincing that people will watch this and believe what they see. I know that they will. I know that people will do that. And that's what's really fascinating about this movie.
Well, and you mentioned Troll Hunter. We actually have a review for Troll Hunter up on the site.
Yeah.
Of all places, if you want to go check out Troll Hunter. Troll Hunter is a nuts movie.
It is crazy.
But what separates this film from Troll Hunter is the added layer of them already making a movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the finesse, I can't compare this to Troll Hunter.
No.
Not at all. I'm just saying that if people believe Troll Hunter, they're going to absolutely go to Loch Ness looking for this monster, because it's done so well. It's done with a finesse of a masterful finesse.
Yeah.
It's like,
and what helps is you have these scenes where Werner Herzog comes in and he's like, "Oh, I'm done, Zach. I'm done. This is, I don't know. You're trying to put one over on me." As this guy walks in the back with the little Nessie head. It's just so insane.
Right. Some of the moments are so ridiculous, but it's so grounded that and Werner himself is such an enigma that it's I'll believe anything he says and does,
And that's the thing, it also, a lot of the film is improvisational, which also again helps with selling this, selling the snake oil that the film is really working its ass off to sell.
Absolutely. It's really, I love it.
Yeah, it's, and then the ending is, it's just, it always just feels like you have no idea if what you're being shown is real, or if it's what they want you to see, or if they changed it when they got back to edit it and they put the CGI in. That's what this film does, is it creates this sense of confusion in the viewer that if you don't go into this understanding what this is, you're going to be thoroughly confused probably the entire film.
Yeah, that's true.
And the ending doesn't help either. The ending doesn't like say like, okay, it was a big joke. I mean, it goes all the way into the DVD as well. So they never give up the fact that this is, you know, a film within a film within a film.
Right. They keep up the story. Yeah. I think that's cool. I think that it's a very, like you said, it's going to turn a lot of people off, and that a lot of people will be confused or lost. But I think for those that, like, for people like us that this is kind of made for, I eat this up, man. And I actually am surprised I've never heard of this movie before. Like, I didn't even know about it until, you know, we picked it this month. So, like, I'm surprised.
Well, and, you know, I mean, I had people telling me to watch it, and, you know, you got to watch it because I love Werner Herzog.
Yeah.
Werner Herzog. I mean, Werner Herzog, you know, having seen Aguirre when I was like 7 or 8, you know, it just kind of put me on this path of enjoying film and wanting more from film than just these kind of, you know, straightforward experiences.
Yeah.
And so when you have a film that this isn't a Werner Herzog movie because it's written and directed by Zak Penn,
Right.
but it is a Werner Herzog movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, this feels like a film that Werner Herzog would have made.
Absolutely.
Because he's in it. And it's just the success of this film is so not determinate on one thing that it works together in a way that a lot of films aren't able to.
That it just can't possibly be done. Like, I mean, a lot of it relies on our already knowing who Werner is and having experienced him before, and that and bringing his genre along. It just meshes perfectly in a way that might not ever work for some other movies. It's just so perfect, and that's why that's what I love about this.
And, you know, again, like you mentioned, having people like Gabriel Berenstain and Russell Williams II, I think that's one of the masterstrokes of the film is having people that are real.
Yeah.
These are them. They're not like playing a character. Having them in the film as themselves, I think, is one of the biggest successes and smartest things that the film does.
Absolutely. But to me, it's calculated. They knew that. Like, I mean, it's so fun to draw the themes together in this movie. They just really parallel up together. They line up well. I mean, they talk about...
I mean, it's fun to be fooled.
Absolutely. But there's also this sense of overall almost like knowing. There's like this, like he said, this escalated truth. Is that what he says? Is that what he calls it? The ecstatic truth. That's what he calls it. And this movie, to me, it's that when, like, you know, the producer the whole time, played by Zak Penn, is trying to create this idea, to create this monster for this documentary and make it real. And in doing so, it distracts them from the truth, the real monster that may or may not be there and attacking them. And that whole distraction of trying to create something and missing the truth is kind of embedded in this other film within the film, where we have these real people who have done real things and have real accomplishments that distracts us from the truth of what this movie is in its own existence. So it's kind of very meta in its layers, but I think it lines up really well. That makes it feel like this like grand scheme overall of everything, which makes it feel right. It feels so cool. It's really cool to watch.
I'm really glad that we were able to watch this movie this month.
Absolutely, me too.
Because it's not the straightforward mockumentary.
No way.
Because I don't even think I don't think it is a mockumentary.
It's like, to me, it's like it's almost it feels like a found footage horror movie sometimes, but then it does feel like it feels so much like a documentary that it has to be a part of its genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's. You know, and Zak Penn said this in the interview. He said, you know, it's a parody of a documentary.
I think that's a great explanation.
Yeah, it's kind of a love letter to Werner Herzog and what he does.
Yeah.
And he's involved, so it's even more of like a, you know, great look, Werner Herzog, and Werner Herzog's here.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I keep talking about the interview with Zak Penn. Let's play the interview with Zak Penn. And then when we get back, we will finish up talking about the film. How did you come up with the idea, and what was kind of the inspiration for Incident at Loch Ness?
Well, I was coming off a very frustrating experience with a script that I had written that I was supposed to direct, and I didn't realize it until after I made the movie, but the movie, I'm basically playing the person I was dealing with in Hollywood. That's the role I'm playing in the movie. it's all somewhat of a metaphor for, my own creative experiences. But it was just something that popped into my head that it would be cool to do a kind of something about the Loch Ness Monster. And I was working with Werner at the time, and I just thought, wouldn't it be amazing to do this crazy documentary inside a mockumentary inside a documentary with Werner? And, it was one of those random things that just popped into my head. I went and had lunch with Werner and said, you know what? I want to ditch this other project and just go make.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
This summer, and he said, I'm down, and that was it. Like 3 months later, we were doing it. It's kind of crazy.
And how hard was it? It doesn't sound like it was very hard to sell Werner Herzog on the idea.
No, it wasn't. I mean, we were in the middle of working on Rescue Dawn, so we'd spent a lot of time together, and we really hit it off. And, he liked the idea, and he liked, he also liked the fact that it was improvisational and that he wouldn't know what was actually going on at all times. And that, part of what inspired me is Werner's whole approach to documentary filmmaking, which is, he says, I'm not interested in facts. I'm interested in the truth. And, that whole idea that the notion of a documentary as a depiction of something that's accurate is such a fallacy, that it's always subjective. It's never objective. So I think the subject matter appealed to him. But he's a pretty ballsy guy, as you probably know. He's a very ballsy guy. And I think he liked the fact that it was just this crazy adventure that we were going to go on, and he would never know what was going to happen.
And what is he like in real life? Obviously, I think a lot of people have these preconceived notions of what he's like, but what is it like, actually being around him and working with him?
He's a more down-to-earth person than you would imagine from what he's done with his life. Generally when I get together with him, we watch a football game and have a beer, and he likes to eat potato chips and, whatever. He kind of, he always says he doesn't know irony. So, we generally, my experiences with him have generally been he's a pretty cool guy to hang out around with, but he also just has the most insane, crazy stories and is always coming back from doing things that seem almost like a parody of himself. It's partly what inspired the movie, obviously. I just saw him a week and a half ago, and he had just gotten back from a volcano in North Korea. And it was just could you think of anything more Werner Herzog than that? What was left for you to do but go to North Korea and shoot in a volcano? But he's a pretty amazing, he obviously, you can tell from the movie, I have a tremendous amount of admiration for him. He's an amazing person who's done incredible things, and there's something about him that it makes you kind of, there's a little bit of shame involved that you just feel wow, I'll never be as badass as this guy, he'll tell you a story to be that was the 9th time I was shot, or someone shot at me in Africa, So I don't know. It's pretty inspiring, and I will tell you that everybody behaves better on set when he's around, because he has this extremely, he literally, I do believe him when he says he would work as a PA on a set if he wasn't doing anything that day. He literally will do anything on a set. He'll act, he'll shoot, he just likes being on a set. So he's so up for anything, and so, as you can imagine from his movies, so unused to being pampered that it kind of makes everybody else feel okay, we've got to take the same attitude, So.
Right.
That was even more true on The Grand, this other movie I did where all these professional actors are around him and they just feel like, okay, no complaining while Herzog's around. So.
Well, I mean, just the fact that you said you've spent time with him watching football and eating potato chips, that's one of those things that it kind of blows your mind when you hear it, obviously, because of who he is to a lot of people, myself included. So.
Right. Well, like that's why him shopping for razor blades, I mean, he said no one, I mean, that was one scene where he was like, no one is going to be interested in this. This is such banality, Zach. And I said, you don't understand. That's exactly the point. People forget that Werner Herzog needs to buy razor blades, that he might go eat a hot dog. Like people think you live on like an asteroid shooting through space, riding on a sperm whale with a harpoon and a laser you know what I mean? Like they have there's just this, you can't conceive of him having a normal life, but he lived up the hill from me, so, I mean, that's the stuff I had the most fun with, honestly. It was just kind of like playing off who he actually is.
Right. So kind of looking at back at the film specifically, you directed the film along with writing it. Was that always the case when you were writing it that you were going to direct it, I'm assuming?
Always. I mean, I realize the movie is designed to be this kind of confusing Escher-like construction. But you have to understand, like, everything you're watching is staged. Everything you're watching has multiple takes, other than there's a couple of shots that I didn't have a chance to do multiple takes. But none of it, the only parts that are shot like a documentary is I let Werner go out and shoot some extra footage. And I just said, go shoot, act like you're making the documentary that we're supposedly making. And so there's a couple of, moments that are just him shooting stuff. But everything else is incredibly planned and designed to seem like a documentary, but it isn't. So, like there was no one else that could direct it because it was just, I mean, that was the, it was like I wrote it for myself to direct. So, but I, and look, that's something I very intentionally wanted to create. I wanted to have the audience. I don't know why, by the way. I don't know why I wanted to do this, but I did want people to sit there and think, what part of this is real and what part of it isn't? Like those people are the actual people they say they are, and they do the things that they say they do. And that guy did win 2 Oscars for sound, and that guy is a ship's captain, and we did actually go out and do all this stuff. So what's the difference between us doing it in a kind of purposeful way and if we had just gone out and made the documentary, what's the line between the two of them, and then obviously at a certain point in the movie crosses that line in a very serious, ceases to be possibly a real documentary, but, that's kind of what the heart of the idea was to kind of blend, the sense of what is a documentary and what isn't. But that all had to be very carefully planned, I mean, there's no real accidents there honestly than the misspelling on the back of the uniforms, which actually, believe it or not, was an accident. That was the only true accident, was they misspelled expedition. And the costume designer she was like, I'm so sorry. I said, no, that's so perfect. Just leave it. That's great.
Right. So when you were, choosing the people to be in the film, obviously, there are industry professionals, John Bailey, Gabriel Bernstein. How did you pitch the film to them?
Well, first of all, Margie Simkin, the casting director, deserves a lot of credit because she helped me cast. I mean, she was the casting director. She went and she said, I know the guy, Russell Williams is the guy who's got to play your sound designer. And he's, she tracked him down. And, I knew Gabby, but she pitched him to me. She said that's, there's a lot of casting in that sense. And then some of it was, people I knew like Michael Carnow, who helped me a lot all the way through. And some of it is just the actual people, whoever we, Robert O'Mara, we needed somebody, and he was my friend's brother, and he actually is a production manager. So we're like, guess what? You're playing yourself. but he also helped manage the production, you know? So it was kind of like I had to cast people both for their ability behind the camera and in front of the camera. So it was, I mean, what did I tell them, I guess was your question. I'm sorry I didn't answer it.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
I told different people different things. I mean, one of the things I did was I wanted to get some genuine responses from people. So not everybody was always fully in on how much of it was bullshit. You know, like I told Werner, I'm not going to tell you everything that's going to happen, you know? So like I told Robert to make sure there was a vegetarian meal for Werner every place we went, which Werner is so not a vegetarian just because I think I only used one moment of that, but it came up over and over again. And by the way, as the movie went on, there's this paranoia, this kind of delighted paranoia among the cast and crew started of like, which part of this is real? Are they messing with us? Is this a practical joke? You know, like what's going on? So, you know, but I had to tell Gabby and Russell, I had to explain to them what the idea was and what they were going to be doing. You know, so they were just down for it. They were like, that sounds fun. Nobody's ever asked me to act before.
Well, and, you know, was it also important to you, and it sounds like it was, since you were trying to get from certain people honest reactions, not giving them all of the information, when the film was all said and done, how did people feel, you know, after the fact about kind of, you know, being not fooled, but, you know, not being given all the cards in the deck?
Well, no one was fooled because remember, like the second you do the first shot and I call cut and say, okay, let's try that again, nobody is under any illusion that they are in a documentary, you know, and all these people are filmmakers, so they understand. By 5 days into the production, everybody fully got what was going on. It's just, you know, it's a somewhat of a confusing idea, so it still kept them on their toes. But I think particularly the cast knew exactly what was going on after, you know, they really did get it because they had to get it. Some of the crew was a bit confused at points, but I do think there's a couple of people, like John Bailey said to me, like he was very, you know, wary. He wasn't quite sure what I was up to or whether I could pull it off. And, you know, by the end, I've stayed friends with him because I think by the end, when he saw it cut together, he realized I wasn't just messing around, you know, I had something on my mind. So, yeah, I mean, I think Katana Baker was probably at points not totally sure what we were doing, but like, you know, I think she was psyched by the end. So I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like, you know, when you do something that's designed to look like a documentary, and particularly when you add a little bit, like that dinner party, we actually did have a dinner party. It's actually at my house, not at Werner's house, my old house. You know, and we filmed with cameras where not everyone always knew what we were filming. But for the most part, you know, you pick up on the idea that it's all a performance. And in fact, the big job of the director is to pull people back from performing and try to find a way to get them in candid moments, which, you know, can be tricky.
Well, and, you know, I think your film is unlike any mockumentary that I've seen in that it's, you know, when people talk about meta, and meta is such a thing now, and it's kind of a thrown around term that everybody likes to say, oh, it's so meta, it's so meta. It's, you know, having watched it only once, which is probably my fault for only watching it once, it's kind of hard to grasp some of where the line is blurred and where the lines are crossed. And obviously that's your point.
Yeah, no, I mean, I made it, I don't know, what has it been, 13 years since I made it. I definitely thought to myself, this is going to be the most meta, weird movie, you know, that's been made like this. I mean, that definitely was intentional and something that I was hoping to achieve. I do feel pretty good about the fact that it bears second viewing because you start to realize more and more what must not be real and what might be real. And then if you really want to hunt it down, the DVD has, I don't know if you know this, but you should certainly tell the people writing about it. We also, the DVD and its extras are all stay in character. So the commentary is done by me and Werner and a group of other people who all get increasingly angry at me and walk out on me. And it's done as though the movie was real, and the behind-the-scenes stuff is done as though the movie was real. And then there's a secret menu that you open. There's an Easter egg, and when you open it, there's a corresponding whole series of extras of everything that really happened, showing you like how we really shot the scene, what really was going on that day. What parts were staged and what weren't staged, even how we did the special effects. And that's like, I'm very proud of the DVD, actually. It's something we worked really hard on. It kind of reflects and repeats a lot of the same things that the movie does. So you guys should check it out if you get a chance.
And I own it. I actually listened to some of the documentary. The mockumentary's commentary, and I think that's one of the biggest successes of the film is that you kept going, kept selling it. You didn't stop even with the DVD, and I think that's such a great thing. I think that's such a great thing to do in this day and age where it stops when you leave the theater. And with the DVD for the film, it didn't stop when you left the theater. It just, it's still there, even with the DVD.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've ever unlocked the secret ones, but those are pretty interesting to listen to also, because that you'll hear me and Werner actually talking about what we were doing. That's more like listening to a Werner Herzog documentary, with me chiming in occasionally. But yeah, look, that was the intention. When we took it to festivals, people got pretty angry at me and confused. Like a lot of people were saying, like, how could you mistreat Werner this way? And, other people would say, don't you guys get it? He directed the movie. And they're like, yeah, but he still dragged him all the way out there. And I was like, and I sometimes played into it, like at Q&As. I would say, look, he knew what he was getting into, And occasionally when stuff about Karnow, I was like, look, I still feel bad about that. And then people would be like, but wait, he didn't die? And I was like, well, still, but I feel bad. And we did a lot of, we even, one of the things I was very proud of is we planted a lot of stories in the media. Like we announced that Werner was making this documentary, and the very first thing that happened is that it got picked up everywhere, and the BBC called and asked if they could make a documentary about the making of that documentary, which for a moment I considered letting them do, because I thought this would be crazy if the BBC came out and we tricked them and filmed them while they were filming us. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It just all got so crazy after a while. But one of the things that we did was we spread a rumor that Werner had put a humpback whale in Loch Ness, that's how he had achieved the effects. And just because we just loved the idea of putting a false rumor out there that was so absurd. And then I would occasionally respond to that rumor when asked and say, come on, that's crazy. How would we get a humpback whale into? But which made people distrust me, which, so it was basically like, yeah, there's a little bit of Andy Kaufman in the whole thing. It was just like making you wonder about where things stop. But I'm glad you took that away from it, because that was something that's not just me, but Michael Karnow and Werner, we all worked pretty hard to kind of maintain that illusion for a long time. I mean, it's over now. I mean, it's too many years later, but.
Right. Well, and for me, when it comes to mockumentaries, the idea of a mockumentary is looking at what is being presented as real, but it's obviously, not in some form or fashion. So continuing to say that it's real after the fact it's refreshing, because, I mean, the one that everyone always looks at is, Borat and what Sacha Baron Cohen did, for those films. You knew he was an actor, but, it never really went past the movie. But with this film, it's just it's really refreshing to see it just keep going and not just being like, yeah, guys, it was fake. Come on. And
thank you.
Yeah.
That was really, by the way, Sacha is a big fan of it. I met him because he saw the movie and asked me to come in and help him on Borat, actually, which was crazy. But But yeah, I do think like one of the things that, you know, I don't want to say the movie was underappreciated when it came out, because, you know, it certainly got, it's hard to judge that. But I do think that one thing that people didn't realize until much later is it really is a movie about documentaries. I mean, the movie is, when people say they're making a mockumentary, often what they mean is they're using the form of documentary to make a comedy, you know? You know what I mean? Like, Christopher Guest films are not, I mean, you can call it a mockumentary. It's totally reasonable. That's the genre they're in. But really, it's just taking the form of it and using it as a way to do a comedy, you know, which is great. Works pretty well. I do think Incident at Loch Ness is truly a parody. It is mocking documentaries. I mean, it is a mockumentary about documentaries and mockumentaries. Like, it's really, but, you know, a lot of this, you know, even the kind of pacing and tone of the first half of the movie, it's partly tongue in cheek, you know, like if you look at, I mean, as Werner says, one shouldn't comment on one's own work, but like the way the movie is cut, it's very intentionally kind of going for these dramatic moments with Werner that are also kind of funny and kind of pulling, you know, like going to watch him buy razors and stuff, you know, and treating it like, you know, this is something important and worthy of watching. It's, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of trying to pull the air out of the documentary itself.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like and I agree with you that keeping it going was part of the experience, was keeping it going. Like, if we hadn't, I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I agree with you. Like, it does something. The fact that we kept it going and that we did all these other things to keep it going is partly what separates it and makes it a richer experience, I hope, at least. But.
Well, and you said, you know, you think the film is a little underappreciated, and I would agree. I think it's a film that is almost too smart for most audiences, which, you know, not to talk down to audiences, but people, a lot of people don't want to be challenged by a film.
Yeah, no, and it's not for, I think there's a lot of people who think they're getting a horror movie because they you know, the way it's advertised on Netflix or something. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think a lot of people don't, you know, you're exactly right. There's a lot of people who don't go to the movies to be challenged. And by the way, I write other movies, as you know, that are not designed to challenge you. So I certainly don't blame people for having that attitude. It's not mine. You know, like I like both the least challenging and the most challenging movies. Like, I'm a fan of both and everything in between. So, you know, for me, I felt like I didn't really care if everybody liked it. It's more that I do think that over the years, one of the things that's been really gratifying is that all of these filmmakers, you know, I'll go in for a meeting on some much, much bigger movie, and the thing that the filmmaker wants to talk to me about is Incident at Loch Ness. You know, like, I met Guillermo del Toro because, you know, well, I actually had met him already, but like, I ended up working with him partly because he wanted to talk to me about Incident at Loch Ness. And that's happened to me, like, you know, 50 times over the last 10 years. So I feel like that's what I was kind of, you know, not that I'm just trying to get myself work or curry favor, but like, I wanted people who are fans of cinema to understand it and like it. By the way, I'm gratified that you guys are talking about it, because that's what I wanted, is for people who care about movies and like challenging movies to be provoked and amused and, you know, actually tricked a little bit in a pleasing way where, you know, most of them figure it out. I mean, that's what, you know, I was really at a stage in my career where I was sick of doing things that were just like successful on a monetary level, but where I had no real control over the creative possibilities of it. And I just wanted to do something that was the polar opposite, you know?
Right.
So but anyway, that's my, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's satisfying, like, all that people still want to talk about it all the time. I'm glad, you know?
Right. So you kind of mentioned, you know, people in the industry talk to you about the film and want to talk with you about the film. And you mentioned that it's a film for lovers of cinema and maybe not just casual lovers of cinema, because I'm not sure that the film really appeals to the casual viewer, and it's not supposed to, obviously.
Right.
We're kind of skipping around here, but what was the response, and how did you feel about the response the film got from the movie watching public and kind of the circuit that you took it on to all the festivals? What was that?
Well, that was amazing. That was amazing because, I mean, that was one of the best experiences of my life. I mean, going to see, I mean, even during the release, the first night at the New Art in LA when Werner and I came out to do a Q&A, and it was just packed, and that's a big theater. So it was just packed, and people were dying. Like, they totally, you couldn't have found a more informed audience. It was like the perfect audience for it. Everybody knew exactly, you know what I mean? I think people were even appreciating the parts that they were supposed to be confused by as they were happening, because it was a very sophisticated group of people. And that was incredibly gratifying. And then going to Seattle, where we won some award, and, where audiences were just dying of laughter. I mean, remember, a lot of my friends and people who saw it didn't realize it was a comedy. I mean, if you watch the movie, it's weird, but some people would watch it, certainly if they didn't watch it with an audience, they thought, well, I don't think people are going to get your sense of humor, or I don't think they're going to see this as a joke. And so when you see it at like a film festival crowd where people are laughing at where people are dying when he goes to buy razor blades, or they're dying when, that's incredibly gratifying. And even, in Deauville, we had an incredible reaction. And I mean, that's the concentrated cineast film fan audience, people who really want to see movies and go out of their way to see it. There couldn't have been a better group of people to show it to, So that was just an incredible high for me. I was so excited by that. And I don't know that I've ever had an experience quite like it, where the audience was so perfectly matched with the material, because some of the other movies I work on, like even some of the big movies I work on, there'll be people cheering at parts that I think are lame, to be honest with you. I'm like, this is all right, but they're just cheering because they're supposed to. So it was just really, really gratifying to have people get it,
Right.
So I couldn't really, I mean, even just thinking about it, like, I was so happy going through, because, there's also, you have to remember, there was also usually a little bit of nervousness and anger, when the movie was over, because they were like, people would literally be asking me questions and then realizing as they were asking them, oh yeah, you didn't actually really do that, never mind, and then everyone would laugh, and it was kind of, and I kind of played it up a little bit, but it was exactly the experience I was going for. So that was cool.
Well, and it being your first film that you directed, and then the Grand being your second, how did the two experiences, compare, the reactions you were getting? I mean, was it all really vindicating for you to see the people reacting the same way with both films, or was it even more so with Incident at Loch Ness because it was your first film?
I would say not just because it was my first film, but because it was definitely a far more difficult and challenging film, not just for the audience, but to make. The Grand, I really said, I'm just going to go make, the reason why I needed to work in that form is to keep the movie cheap. That's why a lot of people do mockumentaries, but I basically just want to go make a comedy about poker with a bunch of good actors. So my ambitions were in a lot of ways much lower. I was like, I'm just going to make a comedy, and I'm just going to try to make it funny and make myself laugh and make people laugh and get good actors. As you can tell from this discussion, my ambitions with Incident at Loch Ness were, far more difficult to achieve and far more confusing and far more challenging, and required a lot of patience. And so it's still the thing that I, am the closest to, that I, it's still the one thing that I, feel like this is me. This is my sense of humor. This is what I wanted it to be. So, you know what I mean? Whereas the Grand is too, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, like, with Incident at Loch Ness, it's not just that it was the first, it was also that it was like, no, I could never do it again. You know, I mean,
Right.
I could go make a movie like The Grand again, but I wouldn't know how to make a movie like Incident at Loch Ness again once I've already made it.
Right.
So, no, it's very meaningful to me. It really is. I mean,
Is it your truest piece of writing that has ever been put to film?
undoubtedly. I mean, unquestionably. First of all, as a writer, you already of a movie, you have like 5% control. But even in the places where I've had a lot more control, like even like on the TV show that Michael and I created, Alphas, we had a lot of control over what it was going to be like. But still, it was constant notes from the network. Still, it was, you know, we were limited by certain things. I mean, on Incident Loch Ness, I owned the film, so I cut it for as long as I felt like cutting it, and you know what I mean. There was just it was just here's what whatever I wanted it to be is what it would be. So, you know, that's the truest representation of what I wanted. But you know, there's other movies that I've worked on that I'm very proud of the Atari documentary I made last year. I feel really good about that, and it actually is like a spiritual cousin to. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I have. It's on Netflix. It's fantastic.
Oh, thanks. I mean, but then you can see there's some real similarities between that and Incident. You know, it's like, and those are intentional. You know, like in fact, I was planning on making it a hoax. It's just that we happened to actually find something. So it would be like if we had gone out there and found Nessie, it would have screwed up my film. In this case, I couldn't really make a mockumentary about the Atari graveyard because we actually found it. But that's probably the one that's second closest to being my, you know, and so The Grand is up there too. But there's no comparison between something that you write and direct and something that you just write. And even like I'm working on Ready Player One right now, I mean, literally as we speak. And even though I couldn't be more involved, and it's easily the best experience I've ever had as a writer, you know, bar none. I mean, it's been an amazing experience. You know, it's still, I'm working for Steven Spielberg, as I should be, you know, and in fact, anytime I feel like we're going with my idea over his, it makes me nervous because I want his ideas. So you can't really compare, you know, that's a different type of experience, but Incident at Loch Ness is a fairly unique, I mean, I don't know how I could get more in control and more personal and more, you know, I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. You know, it's certainly still, it still feels that way to me, however many years later, you know, 13 years later.
So of the aspects of the film, you know, the kind of the staying with it after the film came out, the writing process behind the film, the working on the film itself, what aspect of the film are you the most proud of, or you think is the most successful in your eyes?
It's an interesting question. I mean, to a certain extent, simply pulling it off, you know, when you're making a film, like one of the things that happens is there's like a physical reality to it. You know, there's the intellectual reality, and then we have no money. We are out on a boat. The wind is blowing. The boat is drifting. We're trying to do special effects. You know, we have 9 cast members, and I'm doing this incredibly complicated oneer. I mean, there's one, you know, sequence in the movie where they first spot where the, you know, creature goes underneath the boat. And that shot took almost the whole day to get on a movie where we had 10 days to shoot. You know, I mean, whatever, it took 6 hours or something. And the fact that we pulled it off with like a skeleton crew, you know, I mean, you can't know from what you can't really get from watching the movie. I mean, the goal was always to make the effects seamless, but I can't really describe how difficult a thing that was to pull off. And frankly, just the idea of making a completely improvised movie where you're both acting in it and directing in it and directing it, so that after I would talk to the, you know, various actors about what they were doing in the scene, I then had to think up what I was doing in the scene. You know, the level of difficulty was extremely high. I got really sick when it was over. It was really like took everything out of me. But that alone, I mean, you know, it just, and also just like the insanity, it still seems kind of crazy to me. Like when my kids are old enough now they're like, wait, what's that movie about? I'm like, yeah, it's hard to explain why I did that. You know, like it was one of those rare times where I was like, I'm going to go do something without reason. without like a set plan. I'm going to go do this because some artistic impulse is pushing me to. I don't do that often. I'm usually a lot more careful in my, planning about why I'm doing something and how I'm going to go do it. So I think that's probably the greatest achievement from my point of view. I certainly don't think, I wouldn't expect anyone else to feel that way because it's not designed to look difficult. But look, I'm proud. Here's one other thing I'll say that maybe is more, consumable. I'm really happy. I really do feel, and I know that everywhere we went, whatever people thought of the movie, in fact, some people who hated the movie said, I got to go see more Werner Herzog movies. Like, love it or hate it, everybody walked out of the movie theater saying, I got to see more Werner Herzog. And I do think, some of the kind of, I wouldn't call it a renaissance in his career because he's been pretty steady, but I do think like it helped push him back out into a public consciousness with a new generation of people and with the Grand as well. And I know that because I know some filmmakers then cast him because they had seen him in my films, and I think if it made like 20 more people go back and watch Werner's films, then totally worth it. But I do think it did more than that. So.
And, you mentioned just kind of going and doing it. And I'm curious, what is it like shooting, at Loch Ness and kind of being there? What was that kind of like for you just in general?
It was pretty pleasant to actually, I had to jump in the water because, to get the rest of the cast to do it, I had to do it also. And there's going to be a scene with me. But it was really pretty pleasant. Like the place itself, there's no creature there, there's nothing to be scared of. It's really nice. The weather was nice in the summer. Scotland's beautiful. We all lived in that hotel that's in the movie. We all lived there together. It was really fun. It was kind of, an awesome, other than the exhaustion of actually shooting it, it was really an awesome place to be. In that sense, it wasn't like, it's vaguely Herzogian. The enterprise of going to make this crazy movie was vaguely Herzogian, but not in terms of comfort because, Werner would have done the same thing in the Sahara Desert, and Scotland in summer is actually pretty damn nice. So,
of the Werner Herzog films that you've seen, are there any in particular that stand out to you as the ones you really enjoy or that have been influential on you?
Oh, sure. First of all, I can't say I've seen all of them because it's hard to keep up with them. I think he made 3 this year, but
yeah.
But yes, first of all, Aguirre was a movie that when I saw it, hit me like a lightning bolt. I was at college, and I had just seen a bunch of German cinema that was kind of didactic, and then the professor showed Aguirre, and I was like, holy shit, how have I not seen this movie before? And as a kid, I had heard of Fitzcarraldo. My parents had seen it. I remember I was enough of a fan to be aware of it, but I wasn't at 13 or whatever going to go see Fitzcarraldo. But so Aguirre really kind of just popped for me. It just felt like, wow, this is both entertaining and difficult and epic, and I don't know. It just hit me. But the more obscure ones that I think are great. I think the Kaspar Hauser movie, Every Man for Himself and God Against All, is an unbelievable film. One of the best films ever made, I think, with one of the greatest performances, I think My Best Fiend is a documentary that is incredible. It's incredible in form, and it's incredible in what it, by the way, I don't know if you've seen these, but My Best Fiend is his documentary about him and Kinski and their relationship for all the movies. And it's amazing. I think, I'm trying to think I'm trying to think of the more obscure ones. Like there's the obvious ones you can point out.
Right. Of course.
Like Grizzly Man, Werner was making while we were in post on Loch Ness. So that one, even though I think it's a really good film, it doesn't have the same power for me as the ones that I saw before I knew him, But I would say, I also think, and look, this is a weird answer, and it's one that Werner probably I wouldn't necessarily he wouldn't necessarily like this, but I do think that Burden of Dreams, even though it's not made by Werner Herzog, even though it's about Werner and not made by him, it feels like it might as well be a Werner Herzog film. By the way, I'd say that movie was incredibly influential because it's a movie about Werner making, the documentary is like the movie itself, and Werner is like the character himself, and it feels like a film Herzog would have made if he wasn't Herzog. If he wasn't the person making it, he would have gone and if you know what I mean. I know that.
Right.
I don't know if you've seen it, but yeah, those would be my picks. Strojek is a great film. There's a lot of really great ones, but those are the more obscure ones that I would urge people to see. There's so many people who are inspired by him, like he really, it's kind of a wonderful unifying thing between a lot of people who really love movies and who work in movies. Is he's really kind of an epic figure that, just his attitude, and I know this isn't, but he once said to me, he's like, I make a film. If I have $10 million, I will make a $10 million film. If I have $10,000, I'll make a $10,000 film. If I can't make a normal fictional story, I will do a documentary. And or I'll do something that blends the two. And he has not stopped for 1 second, and he never complains. And there's a lot of great filmmakers who, they sit and complain, oh, Hollywood won't let me do this and Hollywood won't let me do that, and people aren't making the kind of movies I make anymore. And Werner just chugs along and does whatever he needs to do, and that is that is a feat. I am working for Spielberg right now, who I know it's weird to compare the two, but they both have been incredibly prolific and have not let anyone tell them that they couldn't go off and make a different kind of film, And there is a parallel. They have a similar energy, They make very different films, but there's a similar energy, and they're both big Kubrick fans. So
that's what ties everybody together.
Yep.
Stanley Kubrick, right? Makes the world go round.
Yeah. Well, that's the focus point for so many people, but.
How do you feel as a writer, having worked on, credited and uncredited, obviously, on some films that are kind of, cultural lightning rods for a lot of people?
Well, I'm proud to have worked on things that are cultural lightning rods. Actually, I just did an interview the other day about PCU, and I'm proud to have worked on films that, even if that movie is a total box office failure, but it's really, people just keep watching it over and over again. And obviously I'm really proud to have worked on that and, to have come up with that idea. And I'm proud of the work I did on some of those movies. But I have to say, the movies where whatever my contribution to it was either watered down or where it was rewritten or where just we ended up, even if the movie ended up coming out well, it wasn't what we originally intended to do. Those, you do try to separate yourself from them. And I'll tell you why. I think I learned early in my career, when Last Action Hero, it was bought in a bidding war and Arnold Schwarzenegger signed on to do it. And then we're just kicked off it. We never did a rewrite. And, we lost credit on it, it was crazy. And it very quickly gave me this very thick skin about Hollywood. And I realized I can't let any of this go to my head. I can't, people are going to hit you when you're down. Don't let the praise when you're up go to your head, because it's you know what I mean? People would say, some movie would come out and if it does well, then suddenly everyone would be like, oh my God, that's so great for you. And I was just I just want, if someone says, I saw your film and I loved it, that's what I want to hear. And, sometimes the two are the same, and that's awesome. But I feel like I'm proud to have done anything that provoked people or got them talking or that they loved or that moved them in any way. And the other stuff, I'm just I feel more about, oh, that was good that I did that. I try not to attach myself too much to it because it's not me. It's not, it's as much, I mean, it'd be silly for me to go around crowing about the production rewrite I did on Men in Black, because that's not why the movie is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, I helped, right, but that's because of the actors and Barry Sonnenfeld and Ed Solomon's script and the producers. I mean, I helped, and I probably improved it in some ways, but that's it. You know, Ants is a movie where me and Nina Jacobson came up with the original idea, and I feel very proud of coming up with that idea. But like, I didn't work on it for 4 years like everybody else did. So, but look, I honestly, I can't believe that it's been 25 years. I mean, it has been literally exactly 25 years that I've been working as a screenwriter, and that is the thing that's probably the only thing I'm willing to pat myself on the back for. I don't think that your average person understands how hard that is. You know, the movie's doing well there's a certain amount of luck involved. You know, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, look, I got in with Marvel very early, and I went with them when they started their company, and I made a choice to, you know, I really believed in the vision and kind of helped. So, you know, in that sense, I feel some, you know, like it wasn't just an accident that I was there. But, you know, how well or how badly a given movie does has a lot to do with, you know, what happens that weekend, and a bunch of things are out of your control. So, you know, like I have a friend who produced Children of Men, and I saw it, you know, 3 months before it came out, and he said, you know, I'm worried, you know, about the movie, and, you know, I don't want to get your hopes up too much. And I went in to see the movie, and when I came out, I said, are you out of your mind? This is like a masterpiece. And he was like, really? And I was like, it's incredible. He's like, no, I mean, I know it's good. I was like, no, it's great. He's like, it's not going to open. I was like, it doesn't matter. I was like, I guarantee you, no one remembers that Blade Runner was a failure. No one's going to remember. I was like, literally 2 or 3 years from now, people are going to talk about Children of Men like it was a huge hit. And I think that's true, right? Like, you never talk to someone about Children of Men. They say, oh, that bomb. They say, oh, that movie's awesome. I mean, it's such a touchstone. And that is what you're looking for, you know. You're looking for that long-term feeling of like, I accomplished something and people still care about it. So I think for me, that is what I try to focus on. It's certainly, there are times where, like, you know, it's hard to ignore. You know, I'm not saying I'm not proud or excited to have worked on those things. I really am. But if you let it go to your head, you turn into a total asshole. So I think
and the industry is full of them.
Yeah, no, it is. And look, it's really hard not to, you know, when people blow smoke up, you know, flattery is one of the hardest things to resist. I mean, it's really, in fact, I think a lot of great filmmakers, the keys to their success is not allowing themselves to fall for flattery, and to continue to challenge themselves and continue to find people who are willing to tell them when they've done something wrong. Because the second you start, you know, believing your own shit smells like daisies, it's very hard to do good work, you know? Right. So you got to stay hungry. But look, I'm psyched. I mean, it feels a little bit, I still feel like the guy who they accidentally let in, you know, or not accidentally, but I still feel like the guy who just broke in and is trying to make a career for myself, which I know might seem absurd, but to me, that's kind of the way it feels, you know, like I'm just getting going right now in some ways. But anyway, but I always feel good when I have to do, that's why I'm always willing to talk about Enigma of Loch Ness, because whatever I'm feeling at the time, I always feel better. Right. I feel like, you know, if somebody wants to talk about that movie, mission accomplished.
Well, and I guess I should be thankful I didn't email you about Ants or Men in Black then. I mean, you know, well, fuck off, bro.
By the way, there's other movies you could pick from my the ones I've written that you would. Those are movies I like, but there's plenty of movies I've worked on that I wouldn't want to talk to you about because I wouldn't have anything good to say about them. You know.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, I mean, tons. I mean, it just happens. And some of them, you know, just it didn't work out, you know, like, but some of them were just destroyed intentionally by very stupid people. So
you worked on X-Men 2 in 2003. That was 5 years before Iron Man came out, before the MCU kind of sprang forth. What was it like working with Marvel before the MCU versus working with Marvel in 2012 on the Avengers and Incredible Hulk?
Well, first of all, the first job I did for Marvel was in 1993 on the Hulk, on the first Hulk movie. I wrote a draft. It didn't, they threw it out, and then actually, by the way, that's the draft they went back to reboot the Hulk. Was they called me up and said, we read your whole draft and we want to do something closer to that. So I had been working with Marvel and Avi Arad for many, many years, and then on X-Men 2. I went in to meet with him on X-Men 1 and didn't end up doing it, but like on X-Men 2, that started in 2001, my work on that. So me and Kevin Feige and Avi Arad and Ari Arad spent about 6 years straight working for Fox on Marvel movies. We did a bunch. I worked on a lot of Marvel movies at Fox. And, honestly, it was a very tough, contentious experience. And I think for me and Kevin and Avi and, I think for all of us, we were like, Jesus, wouldn't it be great if we didn't have to explain the Marvel universe to people? Wouldn't it be great if we didn't have to explain why we want to do this way, or, why we think the fans are going to like this, or, just let us make the movie that we're trying to make. So, I was there when they started talking about creating the studio, and in fact, that's how I ended up writing Avengers. They said, what movie do you want to write? These are the movies we're thinking of doing. And I said, I'll do Avengers. So I started on Avengers in 2006. That's where my first outline was written. So, because I was writing my outline while other people were writing those movies. So for me, it was one continuous experience. Mm-hmm. I haven't worked at Marvel since 2010. I haven't worked there since Disney bought them. Once Joss came in, that was the end. So, that was the end of my experience on the Marvel movies. So it all seemed like one continuous experience for me. Mm-hmm. People say different things, but I can't really comment. I was only there for the glory, for the time where we were all like worried, is this actually going to work? And then Iron Man came out and we're like, holy shit, it's going to work. It's great, So, but so I don't know how to contrast it. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I understand.
Now it's a different show over there. Kevin still is running things, but it's still a different, I'm sure it's a different animal now, or maybe it isn't, I don't know, but there was a feeling at the beginning of it's just us and a couple of other executives and whoever the filmmaker is just trying to go make a movie against the odds. You'd be surprised. A lot of people thought this will never work. It's crazy. They're going to make their own movies. It was really, people were really skeptical. I was like, you're wrong. It's going to so work. Avengers is going to be I remember saying to someone, I was like, Avengers is going to be a huge movie. No matter what we do, it's going to be a huge movie. And there are a lot of people who thought it'll never work. And now, doesn't that seem insane?
The most insane thing possible,
yeah.
Right?
Right. So I feel, look, I feel good that by the way, I take a lot of heat from fans on some of those Marvel movies, for everyone does, by the way. There's no one who doesn't. Everyone, the fans, there's so many of them and they have such strong opinions that they're going to dislike everything. There's going to be someone to dislike everything. But one of the things is, I feel like if you talk to any of the people who've worked with me, from the first time I worked on a Marvel movie, I said, why can't we take this more seriously? Why can't we show more fidelity to the source material? It really works, And so, I feel like at the very least from the beginning, that was, what I mean? I wasn't the person looking down my nose at those movies. I was the person saying, James Cameron's making Marvel, to me, Terminator feels like a Marvel, it could be a Marvel comic, it feels like ROM or, blah, 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 could be, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the movies I grew up on felt like they were in the spirit of a Marvel property. And so why can't the Hulk feel like it was made by James Cameron? Because I knew we couldn't get James Cameron to do it, but you know what I mean? So to me, to get to a point where the movies are, where it's like finally, if anything, people are getting tired of them because they're so successful. I mean, that's a good problem to have.
Ready Player One, you've mentioned it a couple times. What's that? It's kind of still in the relatively early stages. They just recently cast the main actor for the film. So what's that like, working with Ernest Cline? Obviously, he was in your Atari documentary. And Steven Spielberg, kind of what's all that like?
It's pretty awesome. I mean, I'm literally like getting a note right now from Spielberg about the pages I just handed in. So, you know what? It's great. It's been an incredible experience. Ernie is a friend of mine. We became friends on the documentary. So it's been pretty incredible to be witness, to someone. I mean, I joke with the people here. It's like when Ernie found out that Spielberg was going to do this movie, I'm like surprised he didn't literally explode into a million pieces. Like, it seems like that would be the ultimate. I mean, it's pretty thrilling, and it's been a great process. And it's weird. I almost have nothing to. I'm so used to like complaining about what it's like being a writer on a movie that the fact that I have no complaints is like freaking me out. I mean, I'm psyched to come to work. I'm working really hard. I'm going with them to set, and it's pretty awesome.
Well, and you talked about watching Herzog movies when you were in college, and watching Spielberg movies. Obviously, having worked with Herzog on Incident at Loch Ness, is it kind of like how do you is it hit you? Is it? I mean, how do you kind of reconcile that, just like in your normal life?
I mean, look, I did have a deal at DreamWorks when it first started, so I did work for Steven. I worked on Men in Black and Zorro and Small Soldiers and a bunch of movies, right, and Ants, and so we knew each other, and I had worked for him. But to work with him as a director is an entirely different experience, and particularly on something that he came into the project. Like, I thought, there's no way he's going to sign on to this. There's no way. He's probably got everything, he could do anything, we're wasting our time. He's going to say no. And I was so shocked that he said yes, that it was just like, it took me a while to catch up. But just in terms of experience, I mean, look, as I said, I've worked on a lot of movies. I worked with a lot of directors. I've been doing this 25 years, but there's nothing that really compares to like watching Steven Spielberg compose a shot and listening to him talk about how he wants a scene to play and feeling the full force of his understanding and knowledge of cinema. It's like, I liken it to, it's like shooting around with Michael Jordan or something, or shooting threes with Steph Curry or whatever, whatever analogy you want to use. It's like, there's definitely a lot of pinching yourself kind of moments. But mostly, he creates a great environment. So it's a really pleasant, like, it's a very creative environment. Like, he's very open to ideas. That all the artists, all the different department people are all incredibly talented. Like, half of them have Oscars. It's really embarrassing for me. You just come to work and it's like the top people in every field all working on this one thing together. It's pretty, on top of working with Steven, it's also just like, the kind of the ship that it is analogous to working with Herzog, except that working for Herzog is a trial, and I say this with all affection, but like, it's a different type of, it'd be like, holy shit, I'm in this Werner Herzog movie. I hope I make it out,
Right.
In the best way. It's it's like, but it's more of a struggle. This is more like, wow, this is the best possible version. I mean, I told Ernie at the beginning, I was like, it's feeling to me like the spirit of Last Action Hero. It's finally getting the movie that kind of I thought of. Its soul, not its plot, but its soul has made it into something in a better way, because it's meta, it's also kind of meta. I mean, that's definitely something that goes through my career, and this is like a better version of it all. So, but great experience and pretty thrilling.
All right, big thanks to Zak Penn for sitting down and talking with me about Incident at Loch Ness. I want to talk a little bit about kind of the performances in the film, because we talked about them, just saying they were, it was great to have these people there. Yeah. What did you think of Werner Herzog and Zak Penn in the film?
Like I said before, Werner is such a strange, and we have such ideas created from hearing his voice over these documentaries, that his presence to me, I believe what he talks the way I don't know if this is how it is, because I know someone was saying that. I was watching a panel from Rick and Morty where he was on that show, and he was saying that he is a character in his documentaries. And I don't know if that's what he's like in real life, but the way he talks, he just is so strange to me and eccentric, and I love it. So I would believe anything he says. It's almost like he isn't performing to me. Now, under the crazy circumstances, I can tell, that aren't obviously really happening, to me at least. I think that he passes. He's great. It's exactly what I would expect. And now Zak Penn I could tell he was acting, but the character he plays is so real. And I know this character. I know his name. I work with this character. And it's crazy. It's great. I think he creates a really realistic person, and it makes it extremely believable. So it's hard to even call them performances to me. They're just so
obviously Zak Penn is not like that in real life.
Yeah, I can imagine.
he said so in the interview. He's playing this kind of person. This preconceived notion of who he's playing is someone that he knows in real life and has had worked with, and is kind of
exactly
riffing on that. I love Werner Herzog in this movie because he really is just playing himself.
Right.
Maybe an elevated version of himself, a little bit.
Sure.
Maybe dialed up just a tad. And when Werner Herzog in this film said, I don't want the facts, I want the truth.
Yeah.
That to me, if you ever want to, the fucking TLDR, too long did not read version of Werner Herzog, which you'd be doing yourself a massive disservice as a moviegoer.
Yeah.
That is what Werner Herzog is. He doesn't look for the facts. He wants the truth.
Yeah, he goes deeper.
And the facts aren't necessarily the truth.
Right.
They aren't, and that's, especially with this film.
Absolutely.
The facts of this film, what you see on screen is not the truth. And that's kind of the key to unlocking, the very complex lock that is this film.
Yeah.
Is that, facts aren't the truth, and in this film where you have the Loch Ness Monster possibly killing people, but probably not, because who really knows what's going on. It's all staged, obviously. When you have that in this film, you can't help but just smile and be like, this is such a complex series of interworking parts that 99% of the time it wouldn't work.
Exactly.
But it's this 1% of the time that it worked. In my interview with Zak, he said, I probably couldn't do a film like this again. And
exactly.
I agree. I think that this film is a one-time thing. I think this is you get to do this one time, and if you execute it as well as he did, this film is really just something else.
It's perfect time. It really is alignments. Everything, it comes together so perfectly in some weird synchronicity.
Yeah, and I don't want to spoil this movie because it is outside of kind of our statute of spoiler limitations that we have, the 5-year spoiler limitations. I don't want to spoil this movie.
Yeah, it would really ruin such a unique experience.
And even if we spoiled it, I don't think you can spoil this movie for people, because people are going to come out of it feeling one way or another. They're not really going to be you know what I mean? People are going to take out of this film what they will.
Let me put it this way. I didn't know anything about this movie before I saw it. And then I saw that, I saw Werner Herzog's name on it, and I was like, I cannot wait to see this. And I started watching it, and I just saw his name. I didn't see what he did on it. And so I was watching this movie, and I was totally confused and convinced about what I was seeing. And then when it started to unravel, I was so hooked by its brilliance. So That's what I can say about it.
Yeah, it's a total stroke of genius. This film is a stroke of genius.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't want to heap too much praise on it.
Right.
But I mean, I've never seen a film like this before, and I probably never will.
Yeah, it gets me excited though. I mean, just the obvious.
It makes me want to go do something.
Yeah, me too. Right.
Right? Like that's and you know, it makes me want to go watch Werner Herzog movies.
Absolutely, me too. I do too.
Which, you know, I think that's the takeaways from this movie for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something else. It's unlike anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique opportunity or a unique experience that you should totally. Well, I guess I'm jumping the gun. You should totally see it though.
Yeah, you got to see it. Let's jump the gun together. Skip it or watch it. Best performance.
Okay, absolutely watch it. Absolutely watch it. It's hard to say best performance though. I got, you know, I'm going to say Zak Penn because the fact that he isn't that guy. I mean, for the first half of the movie, I thought, you know, like I said before, I was convinced, and I thought this guy was a total dick, and then I like, and it was just the familiarity that I have with him is just intense. So I got to say, Zak did an incredible job, and now knowing that he is the writer director and like the brain of this, this project, I'm just gonna hand the credit to Zak because it was really a great movie.
You know, I couldn't agree with you more. This is a total watch. Even if you come out of this movie and you're like, I don't know what the fuck I just watched. If you come out of this movie and that's your response, like, he's done his job.
Exactly.
I really like this movie. This is going to be in kind of my movie I want more people I know to watch.
Absolutely.
And you know, that isn't a very big list of movies for me.
Yeah, I think my biggest disappointment is that I hadn't heard of this before, and that it seems to be difficult to find. I want more people to see this movie.
Yeah, that is the issue. Is it is a little hard to find.
Yeah.
I am so thankful I own a copy of it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So that's kind of the saving grace for me, as I had it. It was sitting in my binder of DVDs, and I was like, I know I have this. So I was like flipping through, like looking for it. What do you think the film has on IMDb? I can't give a best performance. I mean, I think everybody just knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, it's just genius. It's overall. That's why I say Zak Penn, because it's just like the brain of this thing.
Yeah. The core of this film is so good.
Yeah.
That everybody involved just kills it.
It's so great. Yeah.
What do you think the film has on IMDb, or what do you think the film has on Rotten Tomatoes?
I bet I don't know. I bet people were super confused. I think it's awesome. And so based on my opinion alone, I'm going to say like, I'm hoping for like a 93. I know I'm optimistic. Well,
that's the thing, right? I mean, this movie is made for people who love film.
Exactly.
And you would assume film critics love film. So it has a 62% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay. So I would expect that.
66% from the audience. So, you know, it's you know, good. I mean, that's good.
Right.
But this really is a film made for film lovers.
Yeah, exactly. It barely passes as a mainstream film. Like I wouldn't expect to see this. I would be surprised almost to see this in theaters because it would be such a mixed reaction.
Yeah, it's not the kind of film that I would. It's not the kind of film I would suggest to someone who is not who isn't like a really passionate about film, because I think people who aren't super passionate about film and love film, I think they would kind of get bored with this movie, and that's a bummer for me.
It is, man, because there's so much to appreciate. But yeah, I agree. If you don't appreciate documentaries or film in general, it's going to be tough to get through.
Yeah. Before I talk about the next two episodes of the Kulturecast, Sean, anything you want to plug? Are you horny and tired, or horny and lonely? Is that what it is? Horny and lonely?
Lonely and horny. Yeah. So I worked on a series for Vimeo called Lonely and Horny with Jake and Amir from College Humor. Gosh, I can't speak. And I'm really excited for it to come out. It's really funny. I can't wait for you guys to see it. It'll be out on April 8th on Vimeo exclusively. You can pre-order, and there's a trailer. I'll put the trailer on my website, on my Facebook. So, and you can, as always, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm Shonifer. And on Facebook, I'm Sean Liang.
Lonely and horny, huh?
Lonely and horny.
Man, a fucking story of my life.
It's basically like, have you heard, the book The Game?
Yeah, the pickup artist thing, right?
Exactly. That's basically kind of what it is. It's like Hitch for a group of pathetic dudes, specifically one desperate, pathetic dude.
Jesus Christ. It sounds interesting.
It'll be fun, and it's like a really short web series, so it's definitely full and fun.
Well, that's all that matters.
Yeah,
right?
nonstop fun.
You can follow me on Twitter at CultureStash. And if you like what you're hearing now, go ahead and go over to cultureshock.com/Kulturecast and check out over 100 other episodes of the Kulturecast where we talk about all kinds of movies and have all kinds of guests. Big thanks again to Zak Penn for sitting down and talking with me about his film. And big thanks to Wovoka for providing the intro and outro music for the Kulturecast. Their song Lament is the intro and outro for our Kulturecast. Check them out. Next Monday, we're going to be talking about Death of a President, oddly topical film. And then next Thursday, we're going to be talking about I'm Still Here, the Joaquin Phoenix is becoming a rapper mockumentary. Yeah, I'm excited.
I am too. I've already seen I'm Still Here, and I'm excited.
So I haven't seen it yet. I'm excited to talk about it. So make sure to check those out.